Next up, ladies and gentlemen, we're going for a slightly different spin. When this isn't so much a keynote address, we're going to spell it as a fireside chat, except slightly different. It's around this hashtag. This is a gentleman who is probably in look and feel slightly different to Sarah Robb. He is an amazing man. He's a very intriguing man. He is the founder and the owner of Swazi Apparel. He's an outspoken advocate for New Zealand Made, as he manufactures and exports outdoor and rural clothing from the Swazi plant and the heights of Levin. And he exports this to over 100 countries worldwide. This brand has received massive global recognition and is thought of as being among the best in the outdoor clothing. Ladies and gentlemen, a character, a scholar, a gentleman. Please welcome to the stage, Davey Hughes. Welcome, Davey. How are you?
I'm bloody brilliant, thanks. How are you?
Oh, I'm superb. Here, have a perch.
I have to sit down really carefully.
Exactly. You don't see many adventurers sit, right? So I'm a rugged adventurer.
Wasn't that amazing? Wasn't Sarah amazing?
Absolutely.
And, I'm really in love with that whole equinox thing. And when I saw it, I was trying to categorise myself, and I thought I'm a lone wolf, absolutely. And actually, do you believe in reincarnation?
Reincarnation, sort of. Well, I'll go for yes. Except someone's got to be reincarnated as a bucket, right? And nothing good gets put in a bucket.
They're the Manawatu supporters. No, I believe in it, and I had this really weird dream last night that I was a wolf, so that just really fitted in with that. In actual fact, I woke up this morning and I felt my neck, and I have an extra bone in my vertebra that only canines have, like a wolf. You feel that?
Oh, Jesus!
He didn't know that was going to happen.
That's your classic uncle at Christmas joke, eh? And I walked straight into it. People know, like you're an adventurer. I spent a month in the outback, sort of going through things, and I scare extremely easy. And I got a massive phobia of snakes, and I was on a bus with 4 guys who just constantly did tricks like that.
I'll keep my legs folded.
So how did things start out for Davey Hughes? Like, for people who don't know you, what's been your progression, both sort of personally and into Swazi?
I mean, it all started out, I was a possum trapper, and so I would spend sort of 4 or 5 months of every year on my own in the mountains, trapping possums. And then the market crashed, and if there was one thing that I felt that I was an expert at, it was getting wet and getting cold. And so therefore, perhaps I could come up with some products that kept people dry and warm. And that's where it all started, basically. We started in the railway station in Levin on State Highway 1, and I painted it tartan, which was hard to find a can of tartan paint in Levin. And the locals have never forgiven me since for painting their wonderful railway station tartan. And it just grew from there. In actual fact, I have with me today our general manager, Cherie Harper. She started as a machinist with us in the railway station, and her journey has been amazing because here we are 19 years down the track, and now she's actually running the entire company.
Hey, wouldn't it be quite hard to find a can of tartan paint anywhere?
Not as hard as stripe paint. Yeah.
Hey, but you're a possum trapper, right? And
Yeah.
you've got this vision to make clothing. But how are you on the sewing and the? Like, did you make your prototypes up, or was it an idea where you knew there was either a gap in the market and you wanted to corner it by bringing people on board and starting a small business?
I made the patterns, which, for me was a real learning curve because no one had told me that, sleeves should be the same. So I had different sleeves. I had a left sleeve and a right sleeve. One was longer than the other. And when I feel like I need a bit of a lift, I actually go down into the archives and dig out those old cardboard patterns, because everything now is on a CAD machine. But I dig out the old cardboard patterns, and I shut the door, and I'm on my own, and I just look at them, and I either have a laugh or a cry. And but yeah, it was just a learning curve how to do it. And really, at that stage, the apparel industry was run by a lot of sort of old farts, and we were fresh, we were new, we had new ideas, and we launched the brand, strangely enough, in Melbourne. And we were at a show, and we had our booth, and we didn't have a lot of money, so the table that we had in front of our booth, every morning I'd steal the sheet off the bed in the hotel, and had a little hand-typed sign, Swazi Apparel, and I put it on there. And for 3 or 4 days, every other exhibitor walked through, and they just looked down their noses at us because we were hillbillies. But on the last day of the show, they opened it up to the general public, and we actually had some garments to sell, to pay for our flights home. And we sold out within an hour, and all of a sudden we realised we weren't hillbillies. We had something new, it was innovative, and it was what our customers really wanted.
What did you think was the innovative part of it? Because going into something like apparel, there's such a different swag where people feel that they're covering the technologies. What did you initially, when that light bulb went off at the end of possum trapping, what's the point of difference of Swazi from when it started?
I think what we did was we said we're never going to sell clothing. What we are going to sell is comfort. And we're not going to sell clothes that make people hot. We're not going to sell clothes that keep them cold. We'll just sell comfort no matter what they're doing. And at that stage, our biggest competitor was a company called Swandry. And they were so focused on just making garments from wool, and they weren't into producing, comfortable solutions for their customers. And they'd lost touch with their customers, I felt. So we had an opportunity there to push it long and hard. I mean, we were tiny then and we're tiny now, but we always like to punch above our weight, to accept the challenge. And so we continue on today, providing solutions, selling comfort.
Yeah, well, you're sitting in Melbourne, you got your trestle table, the sheet's got nothing on it because you've sold out. What was then, you've obviously done a successful sort of small marketing blitz of getting that out and getting a bit of word on the street. What was going to be the next move, like when you guys have paid for your flight home and you're sitting there having a cold one going, how do we now make Swazi work?
Well, we knew that we'd actually have to start employing people who knew what they were really doing. And so the first thing we did was we came back home and we had one machinist. And so we hired another machinist, and we realised we're in the big time. Because we had more employees than bosses all of a sudden. And from there, it was just a matter of saying, okay, how do we get this out to the market? And in New Zealand, because we felt that New Zealand was a much more studious sort of a marketplace, and they understood the outdoors perhaps a little bit better than our Australian cousins. And so we created a catalogue, just one catalogue. We created one of each garment. That was it. I created a whole range, one of each garment. We did all the photography, and we produced a proof of the catalogue, and then basically threw the kids in the car and drove around the whole country, just walking into outdoor stores and saying, we've got a new brand, here's some of the samples, this is a new catalogue. It's at the printers, and it just seemed to fly from there.
Yeah, and it's obviously caught on. What do you think it was about not only just the apparel but the brand that appealed to these outdoor stores, so they'd take it on and then start advertising it themselves by having it in the windows and that?
I think the fact that I was a user, that we were developing garments that were very practical, a lot of common sense and durable, because you could buy our types of garments in the marketplace, but they weren't durable. They were more ski wear, and so they weren't going to last. And if you're a farmer or a hunter or an outdoors person, a fisherman, you actually wanted, it was a fairly hefty investment, and you wanted a garment that was going to last you a long time. And so all of a sudden here was a brand that said, look, we're durable. And then we did something a wee bit different. We said, for the life of this garment, if you rip it, tear it, or have an accident in it, we'll repair it free of charge.
Wow.
So it was like an insurance policy that went with it.
Do you get a lot of returns? Or like people going
We do get some returns, but generally that's in the wet weather gear. People put holes in it, like they'll jump over a barbed wire fence and they'll put a great big hole in their rain jacket and they'll send it back and they'll say, my coat leaks. So the good thing is we still make it all in New Zealand so we can repair it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. You drive your kids around New Zealand, and you can. That's a feasible thing. But driving your kids around the world is, it's, with the catalogues, a bit more of a jaunt. And you're now still in Levin, exporting globally. How is that step? Because a lot of companies can fall down in that step, either trying to go too big too quickly, trying to focus on Australia too much, and then they start losing their New Zealand brand. What was your roadmap?
I think if ever I wanted to curse one of our competitors, I'd curse them with growth. Massive growth. It's one of the hardest things to really plan for. But our roadmap as such was we really had to grow some big cojones and shift our entire business model 5 years ago to going direct. And so that was a huge play on our behalf, and involved writing out hundreds of letters to retailers saying, thanks for being part of the journey thus far. From here on in, the journey's going to be on our own, and we're going to be selling direct to our customer. So social media was only just in its infancy. It was almost like a premature, birth, and we jumped onto that as quick as we could. We jumped onto the internet as quick as we could, and we started honing our skills and employing people, who wanted to be a part of that adventure, part of that, journey. And as Sarah said, get yourself interns. They're bright, they're smart, and they'll work for 13 hours with no overtime, So.
Yeah, well, that was going to be my thing, is people think possum trapper, adventurer, outdoor clothing. They might not necessarily associate that with early adopter on the internet, with social media. So that was never something that you sort of put to the side, so you just hopped into that early. And how do you think that has affected your brand now? How would you say you've effectively used social media?
I mean, first off, social media way back then was terribly new, so it was a bit of a gamble, but it was just that. It was an adventure, and it was exciting, and it was new. And for me, I love it, because life has to be this journey. Don't make business the journey. Life is the journey, and I treat the business like a car. And every now and then, you see something, wow, that's cool. Stop the car, get out, And for us, we decided what we needed to do was build this community. And we were, I think, one of the first of the outdoor companies to say, well, let's build our own community. And so we started what we call a clan, and which is really interesting because when we do shows in America, we ask people, would you like to join the clan? and if you're doing a show in Louisiana, they say, I already belong to the clan.
Yeah. So your hashtag the clan gets a few different.
Yeah, I get invited to all sorts of burnings. So we started this clan up, and all of a sudden that really took off, and people started talking to themselves, and they started sharing their photos and their stories. And that's, for me, that's what a brand is. It's a story. And early on we realized we no longer own this brand, and we're merely guardians of the brand, and our customers actually own the brand. And once you get that through your head, that's really cool, because then you're actually working for your customer, they're not working for you. And, like last year we had, I think it was 6 people sent in photos. They got married in Swazi gear. And sadly enough, there were 2 people I know of who got buried in their Swazi gear. One was a young chap, and his grandmother wrote me a letter and said, that her grandson had died, and his last wish was to be buried in his Swazi gear. And that was just amazing. But marriages and funerals, and I actually went into the office and I said, we have to stop, because it's no longer a clan, it's becoming a cult, and we'll have to change our name to Destiny Apparel. So.
You're saying, which I think is such a crucial point, is that your customers sort of own the brand in a way. Do you have engagement with them, like, for instance, suggestions? Do you let them get involved of going, this is my use case for the clothing. It'd be really handy if it had this or that or an extra pocket here.
Yeah, and at first I was quite arrogant, and people would say, that jacket's fine, but it's 4 inches too short. And I just thought, short man's disease, this bastard, But eventually I lost that ego and said, let's listen closely to the customers. So when a customer would write in and say, fantastic jacket, but it's 4 inches too short, we would say, okay, do you mind if we build one that's 4 inches longer and send it to you, free of charge, and can you trial it for the next 6 months and then tell us, was it 4 inches or 3 inches that you wanted? And so we now involve our customers so much in our design. I mean, we've got a set of designers who are fantastic people, but every year, when it's time to sit down and look at the new range, we go through the database and we pull up all of our customers' suggestions on that particular garment, and we look and say, okay, this is what people are saying. What makes sense? What doesn't make sense? What should we treat as innovation, and what should we just treat as outright stupidity? And innovation it's not always that big bang. Sometimes it's just small incremental improvements to a product that take it, and all of a sudden you've got a garment that's way ahead of your competition. And interesting to hear Sarah as well talking about the competition. And I'll be frank, most of our competition copy everything we make, including the colours, which pisses me off no end. And so I used to get really upset about it. But now I realise, that if they're copying me, they're here, they're behind me, and that gives me all of this blue water in front of me to look at. And so don't worry about what they're doing, go ahead and be innovative.
Oh, awesome. And you're also, this exporting globally thing, yet you're an advocate of New Zealand made, and I suppose that lends into the authenticity of the product. Does that become a challenge? Because surely when you're looking at suddenly going, we're going to try and hit 100 countries, the first thing on your economic checklist might be outsourcing. So you can...
Yeah, I guess it would be in a lot of people's cases, but we've said, no, look, let's draw a line in the sand, and we'll stay New Zealand made. We're either stupid or naive, or a little mixture of both. But, for me, the biggest buzz, and people measure success so differently. And my measurement of success is when I walk into that plant in the morning and I hear people singing. And I go, you're a success because those people are singing. They're having a great day. They're having a great time. It's a real community. And you really have to involve them. For example, last week, our marketing department came up with an amazing new campaign for billboards and some media to drive people to our website, and we were going to put it on all our Facebook sites, and I think the billboard said something like, we'd eat our babies before we'd manufacture in China. And I thought, that's pretty hard hitting. And but our staff heard of it, and so I said, well, let's have a meeting. And so we got everyone into the cafeteria, and we said, what do you think of the campaign? And this is why the marketing company have come up with it, and the guys, and they said, well, some of them said, culturally we find it insensitive, and others just said, people will think that we eat babies, and we've got big blenders here at Swazi, and we just throw babies in and we eat them. And so in the end, we said, let's just pull the pin on the campaign. And so we did. And it's just getting the staff buying as well. That's really important too.
So has it changed to we'd feed our babies New Zealand-made formula before we'd make our clothes in China?
No, I think the new headline is we'd cut our nuts off and use them as ball bearings and roller coasters before. Anyway.
There we go. So before we open it up to the floor, we'll bring some questions out there. What advice would you give to small businesses who want to cause a ripple in the pond, who've come up with this idea and they want to get out there and start a little bit of a clan and make that grow? What would advice be to them?
I think stay true and stay true, to all of your core values. Authenticity, you mentioned it just before, that's a huge thing, and I think a lot of companies, they lose that. And it has to go all the way through, not just the way that you're doing your marketing, but through your product, your service, everything has to be authentic, because your customer now is really savvy. And I hate the ads that you hear on the radio, especially, and it'll be for farmers, and it'll be like, get on down to your local righties, and they're talking down to their customers. Your customers are brighter than you, and you should treat them with some respect. So be authentic and treat the customer with respect. Stay true to your game, and most of all, the most important thing is have some fun. Have some fun.
Oh, great. Hey, now, ladies and gentlemen, we've got the mic going around. Does anyone have any questions or sort of angles they'd like to talk to Davey about on Swazi? Also, don't forget to hit up that hashtag. I'll check that out, see what's going on.
That's good.
Oh, here we go. It's good.
Hi, Davey. My name is David from .nz in the domain name space. Really interested to understand how, as the business has grown, the importance of your web presence and the role that social media play, and how those two things interact.
Really, really important, obviously. And I always feel like no sooner than we have our new web designs out there than we feel, it's dated. And it's time to move on. So it has to be fluid, and it has to be alive. You have to be, changing it all the time, basically. One of the interesting things for us was that our clan and our Facebook, didn't necessarily mean they were one and the same. Like, the people who like us on Facebook aren't necessarily clan members, and so that's been a huge drive for us. Is how do we turn these Facebook likers into clansmen? Because I feel it's important that we control our own destiny, and if we just build the Facebook likes up, and then say a friendly hacker gets into Facebook and just kills it, then we lose all of that. So it's really important that you convert Facebook likes into actual people that you have on your database, and then as well, if Facebook want to shut you down, you don't have a massive problem. But it's just keeping the web fresh. I think that's really important. And we use it as a listening post as well. So, I mean, if you go onto our website, you can live chat people at Swazi. Or if you really want to, there's a box, and it looks like one of those fire alarms. And if you put your cursor on top of the box, the glass smashes. And then if you click your cursor, you send me an email. Okay, and I promise to answer you as long as I'm not, up a mountain or, at sea. So you can email me, and I'll answer you.
Going from being a possum trapper to now like this massive entrepreneur, how do you manage to still stay authentic? Because it must be hard to get a bit of time for yourself to climb that mountain.
Yeah, I live a busy life, and I love it. I'm physically active. I do the coast to coast every year, so that's sort of 12 months of dragging myself through hell, for 2 days of just utmost pleasure. Because when you do the coast to coast, you're fit enough to do it. You don't just turn up and think, oh my God, I can't do this. But the most, for me, the most buzz about doing something like that is when you turn up, there's 1,000 of the most motivated, positive people you've ever met in your life. So it's a great journey.
Oh, awesome. Any more questions out there? Oh, we've got one down here.
Yes, ma'am.
Just interested to hear a bit about the relationship with the Suzu and the hunt. We know quite a bit about that in the provinces. I don't know if they know about it up here. But
Do you want to know where they're hidden? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Yeah, just how it works for you and your brand. And
I think, a couple of years ago when we sat down and we said, we are a small company, how can we leverage some of our brand equity? We decided that, we could do that best by some brand affiliation. And so we just started talking to other brands that we felt, were authentic and really cared about their customer, and said, let's get together and, we can utilise the same space. And I think it's a key part of going forward for Swazi is just brand leveraging with other brands that are like-minded.
Wonderful. Any other questions? Right. Well. We bang on morning tea time actually. So Davey, thank you very much.
Thank
Round
you.
of applause.
Thanks.
And